Hello, my name is Michael Tressler and I'm a Senior Customer Engineer with Microsoft. Welcome to the 8th module of our Teams Rooms Foundations training, Tips, Tricks, and Troubleshooting. In this module, we'll learn a little more about Teams meetings in general and some of the limits that you may need to understand when rolling out Teams Rooms. Hopefully you'll also have a better understanding of additional Teams Rooms features, and then finally we'll end with troubleshooting common issues with Microsoft Teams Rooms. Currently, there's a limit of 300 attendees per meeting, and the maximum size of PowerPoint file can be is 2 gigabytes. Now that's if you upload the PowerPoint file into the Teams meeting. If you just present your desktop, there's no limit. Meetings expire basically 60 days after the meeting has ended. Keep in mind that if someone joins a meeting to update a file or to send an IM, 59 days after the meeting has ended, that restarts the counter for another 60 days. No matter how good your Teams Rooms deployment is, it's only as good as the ability of your users to fully utilize the conference room systems you've put in front of them. In order to assist with that, here are some links that help with end user training. There's end user help at aka.ms/teamsroomshelp, and that's what the screenshot on the right shows. Simple instructions for new users to learn how to use Teams Rooms. If your users would rather watch a video, aka.ms/teamsroomvideo has a short video showing how Teams Room can be used. aka.ms/Microsoft Teams Rooms demo shows an interactive view of using Microsoft Teams Rooms. It's one of those websites where you get prompted to click in certain areas and you click just like you would on an actual Teams Rooms device. And then you can go to docs.microsoft.com to track down specific help for Microsoft Teams meetings. So just search Bing for Microsoft Teams meetings and you'll find the information you need. There's general purpose Microsoft Teams materials as well, and these can often be updated to become specific to Microsoft Teams Rooms. The image on the right is from the top link, aka.ms/Teams Customer Success Kit. When looking on the right, you'll see things like posters, flyers, and announcement emails. You can use these to prepare your users for your rollout of Teams Rooms. aka.ms/Teams Toolkit is sort of a magazine of Microsoft Teams with plenty of videos, links, and information about how to best utilize Microsoft Teams and Teams Rooms in your organizations. Finally, Success with Teams is an in-depth guide for everything about Teams, which includes education videos for users. So these are all resources you can utilize to help your users best adapt to Teams Rooms. There are other things you can do as well. In-room signage can be very important. You can create documents like the one seen here, laminate them, and leave them in the room. As users walk into their first meetings, they will see quickly how to join a meeting and that they could share content from their desktop. This is just a sample, and let your imagination run wild with how you can make interesting Teams Rooms signage. Another creative idea is to make a smaller sign and tape it directly onto the console. In this image, the little sign would be folded along the red dotted line and then attached to the console. This provides additional end-user support directly on the console. While you can currently not start a recording from the Teams Rooms console, attendees of a meeting certainly can. After a meeting is recorded, you have the option for transcription, translation, and closed captions to make sure that everyone who wants to see the video of the meeting will have an opportunity to fully enjoy it. All recordings are saved to Microsoft Stream so users can share the meeting securely across the organization. Microsoft Stream is available for almost every Microsoft 365 subscription. Keep in mind that users do need to be licensed for Microsoft Stream to start a recording. A 1-hour recording of a meeting is approximately 400 megabytes. Microsoft Stream includes a base amount of storage. A Microsoft Stream tenant receives a fixed allocation of 500 gigabytes of storage and an additional half gigabyte of storage per licensed user. So be sure that you have enough Stream storage before you roll out recording of all your meetings. Within Microsoft Teams, there are certain settings that you can enable for meetings. If you look at the graphic on the right, you can see the ability to allow anonymous users to join a meeting. Anonymous users would be external attendees to your meeting. You also have the ability to do some simple customization of the email invite by updating things such as a logo, legal, help, and footer information. You can create different meeting settings for different users or different groups, giving you flexibility to allow, for example, anonymous join for some users and not for others. Meeting policies are used to control what features are available to users when they join meetings. This is generally set through Teams Admin Center, but can also be done through PowerShell. Meeting policies can be used to limit the ability for users to schedule meetings and limit features such as audio or video, content sharing, or meeting recording. Here we see an example on the right of some of the settings that can be set in a meeting policy. For example, you can disable the ability to transcribe meetings. The rest of the slide has an example of some of the additional options that you could use, such as setting bandwidth limits or permitting or disabling dial-out. Again, these can be assigned per user or per group. We've mentioned proximity joins several times through the training, but we haven't gone deep into the technology. In this section, we'll go into that. So what is proximity join? This is the ability of rooms to broadcast that they are available. And if you walk by a room, you can quickly and easily invite it to a meeting without having to work with the console. This allows for touchless meeting joins. Here we see a video of using proximity join with the full Windows 10 client. Click Add a Room and you'll see there are 2 rooms available. And we can see the room is available due to the wireless icon showing they're available. We can click on a room and add it to the meeting, and off we go. Here's an example of the Microsoft Teams client for Android doing the same thing. Click Join and Add a Room, and then if you wait briefly, you'll see rooms appear on the list. 2 rooms are available, so the end user just picks one of the rooms, hits the check mark, and goes off to join the meeting. Proximity join can also be used to detect if you're in a meeting room, and will ask you to join the meeting with your audio off. There are some requirements for proximity join. It currently only works with Windows 10, Android, and iOS. The user has to be set to Do Not Disturb, and the Teams room cannot already be in a meeting. You also need a recent version of the Teams Rooms app. By recent, we mean something from 2020 or later. How does proximity join work? It works via Bluetooth Low Energy. So there's a Bluetooth Low Energy beacon that is sent from the compute module. Depending on how strong the signal is, you may get a pop-up like you see in the upper right with the Join and Add Room. This pops up when the signal is particularly strong from Bluetooth Low Energy beacon. If the signal is a little weaker, you'll see the example like we saw on the Windows 10 proximity join video, where there will be an icon showing that there is a wireless signal, but not so strong that Teams Rooms believes you're actually in the physical location. Getting a strong Bluetooth Low Energy signal can be challenging, as compute modules are often tucked away behind computers or stored in cabinets. This will dampen the strength of the signal. Also, many compute modules are put on the other end of the room from the door in which you walk in. So keep that in mind if you're experiencing issues with proximity join, that the location of the compute module is what's important. Now that you've implemented Teams Rooms, what are the day-to-day operations that you should consider? Well, always make sure that Windows and the Teams Rooms app are set to auto-update, and making sure that Teams Rooms always updates before Windows Update. This is handled automatically every evening, starting at 2 a.m. via a scheduled task. Setting firmware updates may be a little more manual, but work with your OEM to see if they have tools to automate the download and update of firmware for their connected peripherals. Teams Admin Center can be used to view statistics on the reliability of your meetings, as well as the availability of your devices. Teams Rooms Admin Center can show if a device is unreachable. You could use Azure Monitor to alert yourself of situations such as cameras being disconnected. And you can also use things like Microsoft Endpoint Manager, Operations Manager, or Intune to keep track of your devices. Also, it's a good idea to walk the room to validate that the cabling, cameras, monitors, etc. are still working as expected. Further on that point, when walking in the rooms, make sure that cabling is still tightly connected and things haven't come loose. Are the cameras connected and functional? So make test calls. In one of the prior modules, we went through a full battery of tests to validate that a room was working correctly. You may want to do this on a weekly basis because daily may be a little much. You may want to validate that the device is signed in. You can do that simply by looking at the console and making sure it's ready to join a meeting or to create a new meeting. Be sure to wipe down the console touchscreen to keep it clear from fingerprints. Also take this time to validate if HDMI ingress cables are damaged. These cables can be used many times a day, and over weeks, months, or years, these cables can degrade. We'll now go into some of the troubleshooting situations. What can you do if your Teams Room app is not up to date? Well, you can sign in as the admin, go to Windows Store, and manually update the app. If the app won't update, you can use the Microsoft Teams Recovery Tool. Instructions for doing this can be found at aka.ms/teamsroomsdocs. What if the resource account cannot sign into Microsoft Teams? Sign in as admin on that actual device, bring up Microsoft Teams through the web browser, and see if you can sign in that way. If you cannot, then it's a sign that the account either has a wrong password or there's a typo. If you are also able to sign in as admin, and you signed into the Teams Rooms device using a domain account, it's possible something like proxy authentication is the issue. Teams Rooms devices sign in with a local Skype user account that is not domain joined. It's very possible that a proxy server is looking for domain joined accounts in order to validate the ability to go through the proxy server. Make sure that the Teams Rooms devices are whitelisted for proxy authentication. You can install and configure the Teams Rooms app into the admin profile to test. This will let you know if there's a problem with the device itself or with the Skype user profile. Even if you're in Teams only usage, make sure you have the Skype for Business Online DNS settings, which are required. Teams still leverages many Skype for Business Online features, and if DNS settings are missing, those features could be compromised. And for a Skype for Business on-premises environment, make sure that you've imported the Enterprise Root Certificate. What happens if the Skype account does not automatically log in? Well, make sure that the policy isn't applied that disables auto admin login. In one of the earlier modules, we explained that Teams Rooms devices should be put in their own custom groups, be that in Active Directory, Group Policy, or Intune. It's very possible that something such as a group policy setting was applied to your Teams Rooms, which broke the auto login ability of Skype. Make sure that the password is blank and make sure that an expiration policy hasn't accidentally been applied. What can you do if the video image is blurry or colors aren't accurate or things just don't look right on the displays? Make sure you are using the correct cabling as required by the manufacturer. If they want you to use a Cat6 cable, use a Cat6 cable. Make sure you're using quality HDMI cables as well. Verify that cables are tightly connected and that maybe the cable just hasn't come loose. Inspect the cable to make sure that it isn't broken or damaged in any way. It's possible that you'd simply need to update the firmware. Now this could be on the compute module to update the video driver. And verify that the front of room displays don't have burn-in or they're simply old and don't show a strong image anymore. What can you do if displays don't turn on automatically? Well, the displays should support either HDMI CEC or PC power on commands. Teams Rooms supports HDMI CEC, but many of the compute modules do not, meaning the HDMI ports on compute modules are not pinned correctly to send the CEC signal. In this case, you may need to add a CEC injector from companies such as Crestron or Extron. Make sure that the display supports CEC and if possible, enable the PC mode on feature on the display. What happens if video is choppy or low resolution? The resource account keeps signing in and out, audio has echoes, stutters, drops, sounds robotic. Step 1, bypass the proxy. We talked about this in the networking module. Bypass the proxy, do not do break inspect on the traffic, make sure that the network is properly configured to support Teams rooms. Do not use wireless networking. It's completely unsupported. If you are using wireless networking, plug in a physical cable, and that may very well solve the issue. Make sure that you're using local internet and DNS egress. We talked about the value of this in the networking module, and we're bringing it up again so that you can be aware of this. Consider going to connectivity.office.com on the Teams Rooms device when signed in as a local administrator and see what the results are. Now that's important for Teams and Skype for Business Online. As for Skype for Business on premises, check if you have call quality diagnostics. Check the values there to see if you can get any additional information for what's happening. Check the cabling and switch port and other networking physical components. Make sure that the network cable isn't loose, or that maybe it's been cut open one way or another, or that the switch port hasn't been misconfigured. And finally, verify that appropriate firewall ports are open to make sure that Teams Rooms is able to fully reach Microsoft Teams or Skype for Business Online. In general, what do you do if the system is just performing poorly? This usually has to do with unnecessary Intune or group policy. Things like VPN clients have been installed, almost always due to being assigned to general purpose groups meant for the general user population and not meant for appliances like Teams Rooms. So uninstall unnecessary antivirus, malware, VPN clients. Be sure the device is restarting every night. As part of the restart process, we clear the cache. We also reapply security settings, and we generally do other health checks on Teams Rooms and reset values as necessary. Finally, update the BIOS and firmware on the compute module to make sure that there aren't any core hardware issues. In this module, we reviewed end-user adoption strategies and provided links to many resources, as well as examples of in-room signage. We reviewed meeting policies, meeting recording, and proximity beacon details in order to help understand how those work and how those can be applied to Teams meetings. And finally, we went through various troubleshooting scenarios and potential fixes.